Good morning and welcome to BBOC Live. It's 10:30 a.m. Eastern, and this is the Week 4 college football betting preview. I'm Stucky. Joining me, as always, my fellow BBOC co-hosts Colin Wilson, Mike Calabrese, and of course, the one and only Step on a Duck, aka Josh Nunn. Lot to get to today. We'll give our best bets, our first best bets, which swept last week. We'll close out with another round of best bets. We'll hit the marquee matchup of the day, which we've deemed to be Auburn at Oklahoma. We'll build a money line parlay and Duck in the D block. We'll talk some FCS. Make sure you are by your book because those will move fast. The Sorry to do this, Calabrese, our money line parlay last week. Everything came in except for Casey Concepcion, anytime touchdown. In a game with 80 points, he couldn't find pay dirt.
Just about this far from the end zone, no big deal. So I'm gonna go ahead and put myself in player prop prison. No player props on today's episode. Happy to deliver a winner. We'll get to that in the moneyline parlay. Go into one of my favorite teams in the Sun Belt. Hopefully, you can get the mojo going in the right direction. But yeah, absolutely painful. Not only stopped at the half-inch line, but also three passes to the end zone from Marcel Reed. Couldn't find KC for six. So painful.
Well, good news, bad news. I looked at the submissions for the moneyline parlay this week. I saw Collins. That was the one I was going to use. I saw Ducks. That was the other one I was going to use. So I used another one, and then I looked at yours, and I completely disagree with it. So,
I'm color me shocked, Stuck. I don't think you've liked a bet I've had this entire season. So hopefully I can get on the board here and prove you wrong.
all right. By the way, quick slips. We'll drop them in the chat on YouTube if you want to follow along. Make it easy to click. Same with that playbook on Twitter. Make sure you follow playbook. If you see any bet you like, just say at playbook. It'll put the bet together for you. Just click it. It'll take you right to the slip. Very, very convenient. You can also just at playbook and say, hey, put this bet together for me. And then it'll auto reply with a slip for you. So make sure you're following at playbook. Had someone in Tommy in the chat asking, is this today that we're going to see some surprises and upsets? This isn't the NFL. This is college football. Of course, there's going to be upsets. We saw one last night with Gundy going down in ugly fashion. That Oklahoma State team. I don't know how low to rate them. Like, were they like worse than Wyoming now? It's bad. It was ugly. I mean, they just can't complete a forward pass. They were dominated that entire game. Anyway, let's get to our best bets. We will start with you, Colin. What do you got?
Showcase at the end of the night is going to be USC on the Big Ten Network going against Michigan State. We're going to go USC team total over 37 and a half points. Michigan State has played the 118th strength of schedule so far this year against the powerhouse offenses of Youngstown State, Boston College, and Western Michigan. And somehow their defensive pass efficiency rank is 90th. They've been horrible against those offenses. Now Jade Maeva is coming in with nearly 1,000 yards for USC already, 6 TDs, an average depth of target at 10.3 yards. He's going deep, and that's why you need to know the name Makai Lemon, who's not getting enough credit as one of the best wide receivers in the nation, definitely the best on the west side of the Mississippi River, and 4.9 yards per route run. If you don't know what yards per route run is, two is considered explosive. Makai Lemon's at 4.9. So yeah, USC team total over 37 and a half tonight.
Yeah, my only concern here is that USC has Illinois noon kick next week on deck. So do they if they get up big, do they park the bus in the second half? Also, I haven't seen too much about this, but Jacoby Lane, is he going to play? He didn't practice. He's questionable. Like USC's engine is Lane and Lemon, Lane and Lemon. I assume that Lemon's props have been hit already. I'm not really a prop player, but Lane is questionable. Something to keep an eye on. Maybe they hold him back because they have some big games coming up. But yeah, on paper, they should absolutely shred this Michigan State secondary. Calabrese, where are you going?
Gonna lay the big points with UConn. A rare opportunity for the Huskies to be 3 touchdown favorites, but I don't think it's enough against a Ball State team that's clearly a bottom 10 team in the FBS. Fignano has been spinning it for the Huskies. 6 big-time throws against just one turnover-worthy play this year. Plus, he has Skylar Bell, who's arguably the best if you want to lump UConn into the G5 wide receiver. He's second in yardage among G5 wideouts. He's someone who's just going to torch this Ball State secondary. And then once the Huskies have the lead, all the pressure slides over to Kyle Kelly, who's ill-equipped to throw the ball. Really, he's more or less a wing T option kind of quarterback. If he throws it more than 15 times a game, usually that means things have gone awry for Ball State. So I see him behind a really porous offensive line, being under pressure, making a mistake or two with the football. And if UConn can win the turnover battle, they're clearly explosive enough on offense. And defensively, too, for UConn, I think this is a bounce back spot. They played 3 really good quarters against Syracuse. They were stout against the run the whole way against the Orange. They fell apart in the fourth quarter and overtime. And then you look at the UDEL game, everything just went right for the Blue Hens in that one. I think the truth is somewhere in between. I'm not saying this is even a top 100 defense for UConn, but they're not horrible, and they're going to be able to handle, a one-dimensional Ball State attack. So I'll lay up to 21 here with the Huskies.
Guess what, Cowboys? I agree with this one. I agree with this bet. I'm on UConn as well. My only concern, I tried to look back. The sample size was so small. Teams off 2 overtime games that are like big favorites, like never happens. That how does that impact them? But on paper, yeah, you're right. I don't see how Ball State gets stops. Like Ball State has a decent pass rush. Like their defensive line's probably the strength of it, but their secondary is bad. Their back seven is bad. And they're not stopping this UConn offense. And then how you want to attack UConn, I think the weakest part of their defense is their corners. We saw them get exposed against Delaware, but is Ball State going to exploit that? No. So my only concern is like how do they just respond after the 2 overtime losses, and then like does Ball State go on these like clock bleeding drives that waste up 8 minutes and make it hard to build margin? But I agree with you here. I just
And
don't
that's
think
what I liked that I saw, with Willis, who's I consider him a very good running back for Syracuse. They held that whole rushing game under 100 yards. So I think if they're able to stack the box, they're going to get away with, cutting into some of these long methodical drives. And last piece, UConn's offensive line 41st in pass blocking. So if they can keep Fignano clean, I think they'll score north of 40.
Yeah, UConn, very underrated defensive coordinator. Really changes his game plans based on the opponent, switches up his fronts, his coverages a lot. So I expect him to have a pretty good game plan here. Duck, where you headed?
Yeah, Troy team total under 19 and a half today on the road against Buffalo. Looks like DK has the best odds, minus 110 on that 19 and a half. No Goose Crowder, no Gander here for Troy. They are going to have no answers at quarterback after Goose Crowder goes out with injury. Backup quarterback Kilcrease last week was just 10 out of 29, 65 yards. And if you look at the film, he was just unable to process the information on the field. He couldn't make the reads, couldn't assess the defense. It was just really, really bad. And they don't have a lot of answers. I looked at the pressers for Jared Parker this week, and they're really searching for answers at quarterback, and they have zero confidence in any of their players to really lead the platoon for Troy offensively. You look at Buffalo, they really had their scare last week in league play on the road against Kent State. They clearly just rolled in there and thought they were just going to roll over Kent State. They'll really shore up and clean up the defensive mistakes. Pete Lembo talked in his presser about really challenging some of his star players on defense this week. I think Buffalo will be wide-eyed and ready to go here. The defensive mistakes and being out of position, those are really correctable. Buffalo's going to stop the run here as a group. They're just allowing 2.7 yards per carry on the ground this season. The defensive backs will win the one-on-one battles against the Troy receivers, and they'll be able to creep another guy in the box. Really, really tough for Troy to really move the football here, accumulate third down conversions, stay on the field. I don't see how they score 20 in this game.
Yeah, they might roll with the Houston kid instead of Gilcrease, but I think it's going to be ugly regardless. I agree with you here. Was surprised as over took back money late this week, but I agree with you on the under here. By the way, do you just not like Troy now because Goose and you're a Duck? Goose is no longer around. Do Duck and Geese get along? I think they do, right? So you don't like Troy now because the Goose is no longer starting?
I don't know, man, but I'll tell you what, it was stunning to see the way he got hurt after throwing a 75-yard touchdown pass that was called back, and then he's hurt 2 plays later. Second year in a row, he suffers a major injury against Memphis. He's going to be out several weeks. Last year, he was out for the season. Yeah, I like Troy a lot better with Goose in there.
Duck Crowder. All right. I'm going with Miami, Ohio. This has come down a bit, but I still like it. Was my favorite side on the board. First bet I made this week. UNLV has one of the most fraudulent resumes you'll ever see for a 3-0 team. They played Idaho State in a game that was a game. UCLA, who just lost by 35 to New Mexico and fired their coach, and the corpse of Sam Houston State, who might be down there with Kent State when it's all said and done. Those are their wins. Miami of Ohio, meanwhile, is 0-2. They've lost to two Big Ten teams. From a strength of schedule perspective, this is as wide of a gap as you're going to see at this point in the season. Desperate at home noon kick for UNLV, weird spot. I liked what I saw from UNLV against Rutgers. That game was closer than the final score indicated. A couple calls went against them, and the game really got away. I think Miami of Ohio gets it done at home against what I still deem a very fraudulent Rebels squad. All right, before we get to our Moneyline Parlay, we are about to roll out some awesome new updates, and we just had a few to the Action app, the award-winning Action app. And the best way to get the most from the app is by being an Action Pro subscriber. We'll talk to our guy Duck here soon. The man has been a CLV machine this year, especially when it comes to FCS lines. Well, Pro subs can get real-time alerts whenever he posts a pick. Sign up today with promo code BDOC20 for $20 off an annual subscription. All right, let's get to our Moneyline Parlay. As I already mentioned, we came up one leg short last week because of someone I won't mention. Colin, this is the one I was going to use. If you didn't, what do you got?
Kennesaw State, it's absolutely a fade against Arkansas State and what is probably the biggest deflation spot on the schedule other than maybe West Virginia. But Arkansas State's off their Super Bowl against Arkansas and Little Rock. Then they had a one-possession loss to Iowa State. Now they're on a road in a non-conference game. Like they have no business going down to play Kennesaw State. They want nothing to do with that. And give credit to the Owls. That box score against Wake Forest, I thought there was something wrong with Wake Forest. It turns out Kennesaw State actually can play a little bit defense. They stayed within yards per play range in that box score with Wake Forest, and Wake Forest has not looked bad in their other games. So Kennesaw State is legit from a defensive standpoint, and Arkansas State probably has no business wanting to be in this game on the road.
I agree here. Tough spot after getting up for Arkansas, that emotional in-state game, and then they played Iowa State pretty much even that entire game. Emotional games, 112 degrees on the field. Then you go to the smallest FBS stadium before conference play. Super sleepy spot for a team that doesn't profile well as a favorite. Calabrese, what do you got?
I'm going to go with Southern Miss plus 140 on the money line, traveling to Ruston to take on La Tech. The Golden Eagles are 2-1 on the season. Their lone loss now looks like a quality loss to Mississippi State by 17 points. The Bulldogs are now receiving votes in the AP poll, which essentially makes them 29th in the country. But it comes down to the pairing of Braylon Braxton and Blake Anderson as his OC. He's approaching 70% completions on the year, which is a credit both to the scheme and the play calling feel from Anderson. And then the other side of the ball, if you want to beat La Tech, you have to stop the quarterback run. And USM's defensive coordinator, Jason Seymour, was great at doing just that last year at Marshall. With the exception of Colton Joseph from ODU, he was able to wrangle a lot of dual threat quarterbacks in Sun Belt play. And Blake Baker is somebody who went over 100 yards rushing last week, but in terms of his ADOT, he goes far downfield, 13.2, his average distance of target. But he's scattershot. At best, he's going to be a 50% completion guy. I can see this game within the game going USM's way, and this secondary is what I hoped through the portal would gel for the Golden Eagles. They had 3 picks last week. I think there's an opportunity for them to repeat that here. If they win the turnover battle, they're clearly a live dog, and I have enough faith in quarterback play to get over the hump here. La Tech, I'm not going to call them fraudulent, particularly when you look at the 4 quarters of hell they put LSU through and that win last week going away against New Mexico State. But the quarterback play, if they get in a position where they're down and they have to throw, I think the bad things are going to happen for the Bulldogs. So I'll take USM plus 140.
I disagree with this one. I mean, the La Tech D is legit. You guys love Southern Miss, but all of you, besides me. Last week, they got like 5 picks inside the 5-yard line. One that bounced on the ground, and they just let him return it 100 yards for a touchdown. Like, that was and then App State has to bench their quarterback, and then you get the bad backup for the whole half. That was a fraudulent win. The FCS opponent, it wasn't that great of a performance. And then Miss State, they were emotional in the first half. They got dominated in that game, so like they really should have lost that game by 30. I'm not buying it. La Tech's D's legit. My only concern, and they finally made the quarterback change. They were going with this kid Kook. I was like, why are they going with this kid? He must have something. But he didn't. All he could do was run. Now they're just using him in run packages. He is questionable tonight. And they finally went Baker, who can actually throw it. He's like that. He cost Colin his bet. My only concern is Kook is questionable, so you don't have him for the packages, but Baker can move a little bit. Their number one corner is questionable too, said Wood, so that's something worth watching. Duck, where are you going?
Yeah, like ECU tonight at home against BYU. When I was researching ECU in the summer, I was kind of hoping I could get on this bunch as a group that would really surprise in the American, possibly be a dark horse to win the league, and I just could not get there based on last year's performance, what they lost on defense, and how flippant they were with the football. But they've really corrected a lot of those problems. Caden Hauser is really playing good football, 72% completions, 5-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, and is being a lot more careful with the ball. I really think BYU's secondary is going to get torched here. They're very untested based on the two opponents they've played this season. ECU's converting 58% on third down and already 20 red zone trips this season. They're really playing good football offensively. The defense from the second quarter on against North Carolina State has been completely lights out. If you just go put on the film in that second half against NC State, in their FCS game, and last week against Coastal, flying to the football, tackling well, creating turnovers. BYU is so untested, and when you look at Bachmeier and what he does in passing situations, he's holding the ball way too long, stares down his primary receiver. He's holding the ball and holding the ball and holding the ball. And Portland State and Stanford had zero pass rush to make him pay for it, but ECU will send guys and get after him here. This could go really wonky for BYU. Tough travel spot. Really a program defining opportunity for ECU to host a Power Four. I'm all in on the Pirates today. No quarter given. ECU is going to win this game on the field.
I agree with this one. I think, Colin, this is our money line parlay on the podcast. Big Bets on Campus podcast. ECU, Kennesaw State. Yeah, true freshman. First road start. First tough environment start. Greenville's not an easy place to play at night. And yeah, ECU's been super, super impressive. So I like this one a lot. BYU defense, maybe some regression coming from last year. They're good, but they also got pretty fortunate last year, and I think that secondary can be attacked by Hauser and company. Since you guys took my ECU and Kennesaw, I'm going to go with EMU. Let's go Eastern Michigan against ULL. Weird spot for ULL going up to Ypsilanti for this game before conference play. They don't have a quarterback. Like their quarterback got hurt. I still can't believe I didn't win that shutout bet. I bet Missouri to win by shutout plus 650. Team total under didn't hit. They had one 80-yard broken run and then a tip pick that led to a field goal. Their other 37 plays went for 35 yards. They threw for 4 yards. 4 yards on like 14 attempts. The kid Beal, you can go back. He had to come in the Rice game to try to win it. He went 0 of 6. Go back to the bowl last year against Marshall. It is horrific. So maybe they go with this kid Lunch. Like he's more of the runner. It's bad. EMU at least has an offense and a quarterback. They put up almost 500 yards at Kentucky last week. They matched them yard for yard, just were pretty unlucky. Also, I got a coach that wins close games versus a coach who doesn't. Give me EMU. Desperate team searching for their first win. I like what they showed last week, like just pride on defense. And one team is a quarterback, the other doesn't. Give me the Eagles. All right, that pays out. We got Eastern Michigan, Kennesaw, ECU, and Southern Miss. Pays out about 38-1 over at DraftKings. Since I run this show, I'm going to make a rule that says if we go 3 for 4 again and Calabrese is the one that loses, he is out for next week. In the penalty box on the Moneyline Parlay, it'll just be a 3-teamer just for 1 week. All right. Marquee matchup. Auburn, Oklahoma. Down in Norman. It's a big one. Oklahoma out to, where are they sitting now? Who's got that up? They out to
DK's at 7, -1.
Totals coming way down. Oklahoma's taking money. Colin, what do you see?
I am not scared to take Oklahoma at this price. I mean, I got Oklahoma -4.5 early in the week, early betting for those of you that follow on the Action app, but now we're all the way up to 7, and I'm still not scared. I make this game about 8. I would still play it at a touchdown. Brent Venables' preparation against Jackson Arnold is just something that we cannot quantify in a spreadsheet at all. I mean, he's going to know exactly where to bring pressure against his old quarterback. He's going to know if it's the hot read, if it's the second progression, where to have double team. I feel Brett Venables is going to make an example of Jackson Arnold. You leaving my program, I'm going to come after you. And the Sooners defense is second best nationally in passing efficiency. That's already a problem. Top 10 defensively in quality and finishing drives. Opponents are not putting together possessions against the Sooners and getting into scoring position. When they do, they're not scoring. This Sooners defense is legit, and I think we really need to consider the fact they have a great chance to beat Texas and play in the SEC championship game with this brutal schedule coming up. I think there's still meat on that number out there if you like Oklahoma. But John Mateer, we haven't even seen him get close to what he was at Washington State. Like 5 big time throws, 4 turnover worthy plays. He's not played where his ceiling is so far. He's going to connect with Deion Burks and Isaiah Satania against this Auburn secondary that gave up 13 explosive passes to Baylor. So I have complete confidence that Mateer is going to hit his targets. They're going to explode, and Venables is going to destroy Jackson Arnold today. So I'll give me Oklahoma. I'd swallow the 7.
Yeah, I got nothing. Numbers wise, it's 7. I'd lean Auburn. The secondary for Auburn worries me, and they have injuries against the Oklahoma receivers. Their front has to win this game against the Oklahoma offensive line. That's the weakness of this Oklahoma team, the offensive line. They're young, they're injured. Can guys like Falk just go off and force Mateer into mistakes? So the Oklahoma defense is legit. The under makes sense, but now it's probably been bet too hard. But just the familiarity angle. I'm not sure that Arnold is going to be able to throw it, but they got the receivers. The Oklahoma secondary looks really good, but it's untested. Can guys like Gilroy continue their ascent? So a lot of moving parts. We'll learn a lot about both teams. It's a pass for me. Calabrese, how about you?
Yeah, I think this total's been bet down too much. I'm going to go over 46.5. You guys talked about it. When Oklahoma has the ball, I have serious questions about this Auburn defense. And then with Jake Crawford probably not going to start at that right cornerback slot, I think this could be problematic and lots of
I don't think
explosive
he
plays.
plays.
Yeah, so if that's the case, I think Oklahoma absolutely can get to 35 points in this game. And I get the angle with Jackson Arnold up against his former coach, but let's look at this Freeze versus Venables last year. Auburn was able to generate 482 yards of total offense against this OU defense. That was by far the most surrendered by Oklahoma the entire season. So I still have faith in Freeze to pull the right, strings here to be able to generate. I think this goes over if they get to 17 points. I feel confident that he's going to be able to do that with how dynamic this running game can be. I'm considering anything over 125 yards from Jackson Arnold through the air as a bonus, and I think they're going to be able to get there. So I'm going to go over 46. I'd play this up to 48.
Yeah, Crawford did get upgraded from doubtful to questionable. Anthony is playing. But I would be surprised if he's plays a full workload. And he's important. Duck, you agree with Colin here?
Yeah, just such a major test right now for Auburn, lining up against the OU defense with their talent and the schematics. It really stiffens here for Auburn on the road. OU's been completely lights out defensively, 3.5 yards per play, just 171 total yards per game surrendered, 1 red zone touchdown given up in 3 games. OU should really be able to put the pressure on Arnold here and register some defensive havoc. You look at the Auburn offensive line, they have given a little bit of it up, and OU defensively already 7 sacks registered and 24 tackles for loss. OU is third nationally in defensive success rate, seventh in finishing drives. It's going to be tough sledding here for Auburn on the road. I think they lack the downfield pass explosives and the ability to acquire chunk plays through the air to be able to move the football. And I'm just not confident in Auburn's offensive attack to string together enough consecutive third down conversions to keep possession of the ball and consistently move it into the red zone. OU defensively, just 7 out of 41 third downs against them have been successful. This defense will get off the field here in these spots. OU looked a little jerky in their opener, but they've really kind of put the offense together with Mateer. I think this group will be able to do enough to put stress on that second level for Auburn. They're going to pull away here late. I think they win the game and they eke out a cover. So anything under a touchdown, I think we're good. And I think this is honestly could be the start of the slide. I'm not high on Auburn anyway. I've got a win total under ticket in pocket. I still feel good about the position. When you look at what they have coming down the pipe, A&M, Georgia, Missouri. I mean, how many times does Hugh Freeze need to get Pavia? It could happen again this year. And then they finish with Alabama. I think Auburn is looking at 7-5 at best. So yeah, I think a little too much respect here for Auburn. Oklahoma's still kind of hitting their peak. I think the Sooners separate today.
Should be a good one, and whoever wins, hype machine goes up for the winner. Let's keep Duck on the screen for the D block. Talk some FCS. Duck, you're having a great year, especially in FCS so far. One I got to rib you for was Morgan State. I agreed with you. Toledo looked like that was their Super Bowl. Morgan State plays Central State today. There's there no line for that, right? 0-3 versus 0-3. There's no line for that, right? What's Central State? I don't even know what they're in.
Division two.
That's at noon. Some sicko. There's probably one sicko somewhere trying to watch that game. Anyway, what do you got in FCS for us?
Yeah, first one here is the War of the Wheels. Southern Illinois travels down to Southeast Missouri State. Good regional rivalry there. SIU is significantly more talented, and they play in a much stronger FCS conference, and they just blasted fellow OVC member UT Martin 37 to 10 last week. This team is led by dual threat quarterback DJ Williams. Last week ran for 128 yards and threw for 217. Southeast Missouri State is giving up 213 rushing yards and almost 6 yards a carry on the ground defensively. SIU's a strong running team. SEMO averages only 3 yards per carry on the ground and just 4.9 yards per play. Their offense has looked really jerky this year after some key losses from last season. SIU is going to completely swallow this Southeast Missouri offense up. It is a rivalry, but this team is completely outclassed. I'd honestly lay up to 8.5 here with SIU and still feel good. So at -3.5, this is completely a value play on the Salukis. I'm going to lay it on the road here, -3.5.
War for the wheel. All right. The next pick, you're going with Vatek, who burned me a couple times this year before I jumped off that wagon, luckily last week. You like Vatek today laying the points?
Yeah, and it's moved. We played it on the openers at 28.5. I still think we're good here. I went back for more. Anything under 35, we're good. I'd lay 37.5 here. Interim coach will provide a little bit of refreshed perspective and renewed energy in the locker room this week leading up to prep. And these guys are going to ball out here today. When you look at Wofford, they're going to be completely overwhelmed in the trenches. The talent gap will be stunning here. And Virginia Tech, this is one they absolutely have to put on a good showing. For Wofford, a couple stats. 181 total rushing yards in 3 games combined, and 68 of those yards were on one play. Wofford can't run the football against teams in their own level of competition. They're not going to be able to run it here. Multiple quarterbacks have been rotated in. They're just completing 41% of their passes. The Terriers, 7 out of 39 on third down, and they've surrendered 22 tackles for loss and already 10 sacks given up. Vatek and their front seven are going to absolutely feast here. There's going to be tons of negative plays for Wofford, tons of third and long. They're not going to be able to get out of it. Short fields for Virginia Tech. This is a complete mismatch when Virginia Tech has the ball. They'll be able to run all over Wofford, who is a very, very weak Southern Conference team. This is going to be really a bludgeoning. I mean, it's
Yeah, it feels like 55-3 or something.
yeah,
My
really,
only
really,
concern,
really
I don't
bad.
dabble in FCS, but my only concern is, so I didn't really look into this. Does Vatek have a bunch of opt-outs? Because you can still preserve your eligibility with probably leaving. I saw one kid at the portal, but I don't know who's get like. Do they have a bunch of opt-outs? I don't think it matters. But then you got a Lindenwood under to finish this up here.
Yep, we'll just be real quick about this one. Both teams are run heavy. Both average about 4 yards per carry on the ground. Both of these teams, Lindenwood and Stony Brook, are terrible on third downs. We're going to get no extremes in pace here. This under is just or excuse me, this total is just a tick too high. Lindenwood versus Stony Brook under 58.5. I'd play this all the way to 55 flat. We're just getting a little too much maybe lack of respect for some poor defenses, but these offenses are not good. Stony Brook and Lindenwood are both going to run the ball. They're run heavy about 64, 65% of the time. This will be maybe not a slow burning grinder, but this total's about 4 or 5 points too high.
All right. Before we get out of here, one final best bet. You get 30 seconds each. Colin, start it off.
Memphis, first half, +3.5. You want to go money line? Go ahead and hit it. Arkansas wants no business traveling across the state, going to play in a Liberty Bowl stadium they've been to 2 of the last 3 years. Practice was sluggish all week. Pittman was yelling at them. Petrino's always yelling. They cannot get them motivated for this game because one of the biggest games in Fayetteville history is next week against Notre Dame. It's the Lou Holtz Bowl, which is selling out like crazy. So Memphis runs heavy inside zone with Sutton Smith and Brendan Lewis. Arkansas, 35% success rate defensively against inside zone read concepts. They can't defend it at all. Memphis, I don't know. I mean, this could go to overtime. They could win. I don't know, but let's take the first half.
Tell Colin to be quick. He starts talking about inside zone splits. Calabrese,
UTEP in the Sun Bowl laying 6.5 against ULM. Malachi Nelson and Sean Wilson can get it done against teams with weak front sevens. Monroe outside the top 100 against the run. They've also just generated 3 sacks all season long. ULM is going to have difficulty getting explosive plays because UTEP is #1 in the country fundamentally in tackling. And finally, Aiden Armenta, this is a pure fade of this kid. He is dreadful. 6 of his last 8 starts, reaching back to last season, sub 20 QBR. Once they fall behind in this game, they're going to be cooked. So I'm going to go ahead with the Miners to win by double digits.
Duck.
FIU, we discussed this on the deep dive G5 deep dive podcast here, but I think Delaware is a feisty bunch. They'll be a good against the spread team getting through the rest of their Conference USA schedule, but I think they're out of gas here after playing at elevation in Colorado and then doubling back for old Yankee Conference rival UConn, a game that was back and forth. 2 max efforts in a row here. Now you have to get back on the plane and go to Miami. Delaware 125th in rush explosiveness, surrendered on defense, 91st in defensive success rate, 124th in pass explosiveness given up. All around bad for this defense, and I think FIU is still flying a little under the radar. They're going to get this win at home by at least a touchdown.
Yeah, and I like that FIU secondary to match up with that Delaware electric passing attack. For me, NIU, I'm surprised this number is going up. Bad spot for Miss State, but we'll take the better number. Miss State, Tennessee on deck. NIU grinds these games down to a halt under Hammock. I mean, he's gone into Notre Dame and won. He's gone into Georgia Tech and won. He's 5-21-1 against the spread as a favorite, 19% as a dog, 24-11-1 against FBS teams, 69%, 7-2 as a big dog of more than 2 touchdowns, covering by more than 8 points a game. NIU will grind this down. Good spot. Just give the ball to Wright and Johnson and run them, bleed the clock, keep this within 3 touchdowns. Give me the Huskies. That's all MAC picks for me on the day. Can't wait for midday weekday action. That'll do it for us. Thanks to Duck, Colin, and Mike for joining me. Thanks to our producer Gifford on the back end. Most importantly, thanks to all of you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. We'll have our recap episode tomorrow, 959 Bad Beat. Call in, yell at us. We'll recap everything tomorrow. Group of 5 guys Wednesday. Colin and I Thursday for the week 5. It's a great slate. Can't wait to break it down. Award-winning Action Network app. Make sure you have it. You can follow all of our picks there. Thanks for tuning in to all of you. Good luck today, and we'll see you same time next Saturday. Cheers.